Hey, my friend. We've got Mars and Venus changing signs this week. We are preparing for our new moon in Leo next Monday, and Mercury is coming out of retrograde. Hallelujah. Yes, my friend, we've got a jam packed week of lots of things shifting and changing. We just came out a very intense week with Leo and Aries, and more to come this week with this week's Sidereal Astrology Forecast, August 26th through September 1st. If you are new here, hello, my friend. Welcome. Danny C. Muniz, intuitive astrologer, spiritual counselor, helping coaches, conscious leaders, practitioners move forward in life and business so that they can fulfill their soul's mission. And we do that by understanding our inner guidance system. My friend, I am blessed and honored to be here with you today. And let's dive in because there is lots going on that I want to share with you today. So I'm going to share my screen. And as I do that, I want to remind you that this forecast is in two different places. You might be watching this on the YouTube channel. Hi, my friend. And Keeping It Real with Sidereal is the name of that YouTube channel where you get to see the charts and my funny faces, as well as on the Cosmic Mystic podcast, which is the audio only version of this podcast, of this forecast. You can catch it over there on any of your favorite podcast places. And if it's not on yours, let me know so I can get it on there for you. Okay, here is our chart as we kick off this week. Let me go ahead and do our State of the Union, which I like to say is where is everybody right now? We can see Leo is kicking off right here at 9 degrees. Our sun is at 9 degrees Leo. We've got Mercury still in its retrograde in Cancer at 27 degrees. We've got Mars, who just moved into Gemini here. We've got Jupiter in Taurus. Our moon is currently in Taurus, Uranus in Taurus. Chiron is retrograde in Pisces. We've got Neptune in Pisces retrograde, Saturn in retrograde in Aquarius, and Pluto in retrograde in Capricorn. And finally, over here, we've got Venus in Virgo. So Venus just changed signs. Mars just changed signs. So you can see Mars went from Taurus to Gemini, and Venus went from Leo to Virgo. So let's dive into both of those. We're going to kick off with Mars. This Mars Jupiter conjunction, we've been talking about it for the past few weeks. This is finally releasing here. We're going to see that shift out this week, and Mars will be on its own here in Gemini as it keeps moving forward, and Jupiter will stay there in that Taurus energy. So let's talk a little bit about what Mars in Gemini, what that energy is, because Mars is the warrior planet, right? It is our drive, it is our determination, it is that motivation. And so when we see Mars in this energy, in Gemini, Gemini is curious. Gemini is social. And so there is an increase in our energy here because we went from all the comforts in Taurus to really slowing down and smelling the roses to Gemini, which is a very active energy. So this is really going to put some drive and motivation into how we interact, how we think, and how we learn, how we're processing information. So our inner warrior, right, is more determined during this time to share information. It wants to share. That's it's the Gemini is the social butterfly of the zodiac. So it's wanting to go out there and share. It's also super curious. So it wants to learn. It wants to learn new things. So this particular time would be a fantastic time, my friend, for you to look at those self help courses or those biz help courses that you've put on the virtual bookshelf that you might want to call back in. My friends, this is also a great time to put offers out there that involve learning or experiences that involve learning because people are curious and they're wanting to learn new ways of doing things. So if you've got a challenge, if you've got a workshop, if you've got something of that sort, this is a great time to do this. And then we've also got, because this energy is, Mars and Gemini, this energy can be very scattered and it can be very wide. So it's almost as if the energy, like how I feel it, is like it's kind of scattered and kind of out there. So you might feel like your energy kind of begins to feel a little all over the place, which is why one of the things I'm going to recommend you do is come back home on a regular basis, whether that's through meditation, whether that's through the somatic daily practice or the somatic breathwork practice. I have both of those available that you can get. They're free downloads to really help you tune in. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to say this here is I am going to be launching a place, a portal where you can access meditations, healings, activations, breath work, all the things in one place that you can come to. And this is like years of stuff that I've been working on probably since the past 8 years that I've been in business. So we're going to pull those hypnosises out, those meditations out, those healings that I've done from the past, and we're going to put them in one place where you can access them. So that is coming really soon. So I want to give you the heads up on that. But that is something that I would recommend doing on a regular basis. If you caught Magic Monday, which if you didn't know, I do that live every single Monday over on my Facebook page, The Peace Teacher. And on that, you'll see a somatic breathwork practice that you can listen to over and over and over again, my friend. Tune into here because this energy can scatter you like no other. Now, some of the other really positives here with this connection is Mars is determined. And so there is a tenacity that we have with Mars wanting to get whatever it needs to get out. Okay. Whatever it needs to get out. And so there's a lot of external, like getting things out. Now, the challenge here is that it can be that externalness of wanting to communicate can come across as demanding of others. It can come across as intruding on people's, peace. So I say this because it could feel like from another perspective that you're maybe quite abrupt or you're coming across with like this urgency where you know how sometimes like you text somebody or somebody texts you and then you don't respond and then they text you again and they're like, did you get my text? And you're like, yeah, but I wasn't in the place to respond. And so then another couple hours ago and they're like, hello, did you see? Yes, I saw. It could feel a little like that where there's this urgency, like I need to know. I need the answer. We've got Leo and we've got this Mars and Gemini energy. So it can be very demanding of our time. And so I'm going to invite you to have some nice, loving boundaries. Now, I want to remind you here, I don't know if I've said it recently, but boundaries come from love, not wounds. Okay. So boundaries come from love, not wounds. So quick temper energy here too. So it's like it comes and it goes. It's quick, it's fast. There's also some quick wittiness that comes with Gemini. So pay attention to that, as well as the shiny object syndrome. So you might feel like, oh, this looks good and this looks good and maybe I want to do this and maybe I want to do that. Pay attention to that, my friend. And so you might be thinking, how long are we going to be in this, Danny? We will be in this energy all the way through mid-October, October 19th to be specific. So there you go, my friend. We've got a whole month and a half here in this energy, and it can get crazy. So remember to stay grounded, use your boundaries, and use this energy to get some fun stuff out there. All right, let's look at a couple of other things that Mars is doing this week. We have this Mars connection over here to Neptune, which is actually a square that we saw come in this weekend that we're going to see through mid September, September 12th to be exact. And so there is a little bit of, to amplify this Gemini energy, let's just say, in Mars square Neptune kind of moves the energy down just a bit, and the energy can be a little bit lower. One of the things that happens here, though, is that we could also see some um, discouragement, some guilt, some uncomfortableness, suspicion, paranoia. We could see some of that energy coming through. So I want you to avoid jumping to conclusions about things and really paying attention to where that motivation is coming from behind that trigger, because that could definitely be something that is coming up that is not necessarily like, it's almost as if like with Neptune, when anytime we talk about Neptune, it's as if we don't have all the details. We can't quite see clearly. And because we can't quite see clearly, we can come to some assumptions about things. And so I want you to just be cautious with that. Now, the other positive thing about this is there's a lot of inspiration and imagination that can come through here. So just make sure that that inspiration and imagination is coming from a really healthy place and not from, the paranoia, jealousness, vindictiveness place. Now, the other one I want to talk about is Mars sextile Mercury. We're still have this as well. This came in last week. I did talk about it last week, but I do just want to say that there is an increase in ambition here. And I see that because it's very powerful energy. And so we want to make sure, especially around the mind, the mental place. And so here, there's really good energy to work through some of those more challenging tasks, the things that are a little bit more complicated. So, and this is from a mental place. So you could, if you've been trying to figure something out, or it's almost as if like, oh, I keep banging my head against the wall, like that type of energy, this is a really good one that can help you move through this. So this is really, really good for things like that. Okay, so use that. Now, let's talk about Venus before we dive into Mercury and Mercury's ending of its retrograde. So, as I stated in the beginning, Venus is changing signs, and we can see this here. Oh, I just realized I wasn't sharing my screen. Why didn't you tell me, my friend? Okay, here we go. Let's choose that. Okay. There we go. Now you can see her. So Venus here, we've got making a couple of different connections here. First off, we've got her moving into Virgo, which is what I said at the very beginning of this. Now, she's going to be in Virgo. She went and moved into Virgo over the weekend, and she'll be there till mid-September, September 17th. And so Venus rules over love, money, beauty, art, things of that nature. So when we are in Virgo, our love is through practical means. So this might be whether it's love like with a partner, you might be doing things that are not of like this romantic gesture like we would have seen with Leo, like this big dramatic gesture. It's more like, I'm going to do your errands or I'm going to run errands for you, or I'm going to clean this room or do the dishes. It's more of like these practical things, or even the gifts or the offerings that we give to people are more of a practical sense. It's definitely more grounded here. So it's almost as if love needs to have a sense of purpose. It needs to make sense. Like it just has to make sense. So if it's within your relationship, there's things that it's like it just has to make sense. I'm not just going to do something to do something, right? It has to make logical sense. Love from the place of giving love, sharing love, being love type energy. It's from this place of practicality. So showing somebody that you love them, right? This being like a non romantic relationship. It's like you're going to do it in these really practical ways. This also comes to how you're deciding to purchase things, right? Because Venus does rule money. So, how are you purchasing things? It becomes more practical. Like, I'm not going to go and enjoy something that is, crazy and dramatic and big and generous, like we saw with Leo. It's going to be practical. It's going to make sense. It has to really be grounded because that's definitely the Virgo energy. So, doing things for people, acts of service. So those of you that is your love language, oh my goodness, like this is the time for you, because either whether you're on the receiving end of that or whether you like to do that for others, this is definitely a good time for all of that. It's almost as if we feel a little guilty for indulging, right? Virgo loves to make sure that things are practical and they make sense, and it's very like kind of logical here. The shadow side of this, or the opposite side of this, is that we can be overly critical, picky, or even anxious or worrisome. So, from that overcritical standpoint, whether that's with our partners or with the money, like how we're spending things, right? It might be overcritical of ourselves, or it might be overcritical of our partners. So, maybe something that we did and we're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, right? Or they did, and like, why are they doing that, right? We could be a little bit more nitpicky about things, like maybe you ask them to buy, you know, some ant, stuff to make sure that ants don't get into the house. And maybe they forget and they don't do it. Not that I would know anything about this, but maybe that happens. And maybe you get a little nitpicky and a little frustrated because they didn't do it. And it's 3 days later and it's still there. Maybe, just maybe. I'm just saying. But these are the things, right? We can nitpick little tiny things that in the scheme of things don't really make a big deal. But, right, in that moment we can get caught up in it. So I just want to give you that as a something practical to think about as you're moving forward, is because things are going to get a little practical here. All right. So we have a couple of different things that we saw over the weekend with Venus and Neptune. I talked about that last week, as well as a Venus and Uranus, this trine here that we're going to see till the end of the week. Which actually, let me tell you, because we are going to be in this for just a couple of days here, days longer. This is really good energy for trying something new. So if you feel like you've been in boring kind of like routines, like just, oh, I need something new, that's what this is. It's really trying to stir things up. It's kind of like unexpected energy. That's always what we see with Uranus, is like it's that unexpected energy. So experimenting, trying new things, this is a good time to do that. You might even find that routines become so boring and you're wanting to change things up. So that's this week would be really good to change that up. Now, the other one I want to talk about is Venus and Pluto. So Venus is making a trine over here to Pluto, and this brings this intensity and passion into our relationships. And so there is also some obsession here. So it could be obsession with beauty, with love, right, with art, with these luxurious things, and it could also be this obsession with love and affection. And so again, I want you to think about all the things that I've just said with Mars, and it's a Gemini energy of being a little bit kind of forceful. It can be a little forceful here, as well as this intensity with Venus and Pluto. And this will be through the week into next week as well with this one. So this is going to be a pretty intense week with that, where there's this really big kind of obsession energy coming through that I just want you to be careful with. So, how can you work with that? Notice where you might be getting obsessed over things, whether that's from a positive standpoint or from a more challenging standpoint, right? There's the law of polarity. Nothing is good or bad. It's just how we're perceiving it, because there is a quote unquote good and bad, right? An opportunity and a challenge, right? Those are both, they both go together. We can't have one without the other. And so because of this energy, there could be some of that coming through. So I just wanted to kind of give you that as a little thing in your ear there. All right, let's go to the last one I want to talk about today, which is Mercury. So Mercury has been retrograde for a bit now. He moved into retrograde at the beginning of the month, and he moves out of retrograde on August 28th. And he will be, as you can see, in Cancer. And as he starts to go direct, then he will move into Leo. So for now, though, we do have him right here making that sextile over here to Mars and Jupiter, which is going to fall off. At least the Jupiter will fall off on the 4th, and Mars will fall off a little bit later. We're going to see that energy go through into September. We'll also see the Chiron energy fall off as well. And the Uranus will see fall off at the end of this week as well. So these are going to shift quite a bit. We will still see that Mercury and Mars energy in through September, I should say. But Mercury, so let me just remind you that whenever we're talking about Mercury retrograde, we not only talk about the energy of Mercury in its retrograde, but we also talk about the post and the pre and the post shadow period. And that basically is the part of the sky, we'll say, that Mercury is moving through in its retrograde position, right? So let's say in the post period, it's trucking along, it's doing its thing, and it moves through this area of the sky right here. In its Mercury retrograde position, it moves back through that same energy, right? When it began. Then when it goes direct, it's going to move back through that again. So it has the pre, the retrograde, and then the post. So that same energy gets hit, that same spot in the sky gets hit 3 times. The pre usually brings things to our attention, like, oh, this is something that's wanting to come up for us to look at, right? If we're looking at this from a personal growth and development, spiritual growth place, that's where this is coming in. Then in the retrograde period is our opportunity to stop, to look, to reflect, to realign, to reconnect with whatever it is that came up, right? And then as it moves through the post period, there may be, it's like now we're starting to move forward with things, like we've realized some things, we start making changes, and we're moving now through, right? And it's coming up again. So there may be things that still come up during this time, or as we've implemented these new things, there's adjustments that we still need to make. So we're not necessarily out of retrograde when it does go direct, because we will still have another 2 weeks of that energy still kind of working with us. So although we'll be out of the more intenseness of it, we still will be in that energy for a couple more weeks. So I do want to give you that, because it does go direct on the 28th, but then we're still going to have that shadow period for just a bit, and it's going to move from Cancer in back to Leo. All right, my friend, that has been your Sidereal Astrology Forecast for the week of August 26th through September 1st. I do want to invite you. We have some great events coming up. This week, we've got Sacred CEO Circle that happens at the end of every lunar cycle, right before the new moon, and then the new moon Sacred Circle. Both of those are opportunities for you to reflect, to release, and to align with your intentions for the new cycle ahead. You'll see more of those, more about those down below in the show notes and the description box. My friend, be sure to follow along here on the YouTube channel and on the podcast for more sidereal astrology updates. Also, there is a Leo podcast episode coming out this week and some interviews with some really cool people coming out next month. All right, my friend, have a beautiful rest of your day. Have a beautiful week. If you want any information on anything that I've talked about or shared, or just looking for more stuff, look it down below in the comments and I'm sorry, in the description and the show notes, because it's all in there. And if it's not, send me a message because I will then put it in. I'm human, my friend. I forget things. All right. With that, let's go ahead and take a nice deep breath in together and let it go. And as you move into the rest of your day, I invite you to find peace. Bye.